Hey friends, I am here to chat opera cake. Now, I worked in a bakery when I was 17 and they made opera cake. And what I learned from that experience is opera cake is very difficult and not something you try to make on your own unless you're really brave and patient. Patient is not my thing, but I love opera cake. And we're celebrating our Opera Bracelet's 10-year anniversary. And if we could have a real party, we would have opera cake from a bakery, not that I am making. But I would like to try and find a way for us all to share the flavors of opera cake in a much easier fashion. And true, like, pastry chefs will find this all to be like very sacrilegious. And I'm always big on the shortcut. So opera cake generally looks like this. It has lots of layers, like 6 or 8 layers, and they're like really thin, delicate cake layers. It's like you don't take a cake and like slice it. That's not how they do it. They bake these very thin layers of sponge cake. And it is an almond flavored sponge cake. So that's one of the main flavors of opera cake. Almond flavored sponge cake brushed with coffee syrup, has coffee flavored buttercream in the layers. You'll see pictures of all different numbers of layers. I don't know if there's like a true like number that they're supposed to be, but that is, you see the coffee brushed sponge cakes, the coffee buttercream. Remember, the cake is an almond flavor, and then it has the rich chocolate frost. It's not really frosting. It's what they call ganache, or sort of a glaze on the top. Okay, so here's my idea. Opera cupcakes. Now, granted, I do some baking, so I would probably make myself a cake mix out of like whole wheat flour and almond flour, and I don't like to use a lot of sugar, so I would probably do my own thing, but I want to make an easy version of this that like everybody can try. So I have used a yellow cake mix, and here they are. And I put a tablespoon of almond flavoring in them. That was my only hesitation on using the cake mix because it already kind of has vanilla flavor in it. So I hope it has enough almond flavoring in it as well. And the plan, and everything that I've made sort of so far has to cool and set up before I can assemble this. So this is like the pre-show. So I've taken a little steak knife and just carved out a little hole, and that's where the coffee flavored filling is going to go. Now here again, I have a little problem. Technically it is a coffee flavored buttercream that they use in opera cake, and it is very thin layers, so it's not like you're eating a humongous gob of buttercream when you're eating an opera cake. In fact, an opera cake is very wet in consistency, and you almost don't realize that it's a layer of cake and a layer of frosting and, well, buttercream I call frosting. But I didn't like the idea of a gob of buttercream of any kind being in the middle of my cupcake. I mean, it's just too sweet. It's just too heavy and yeah. So my plan, I have 2 levels of sacrilegious plan for my filling. I have made whipped cream, and I only learned how to make whipped cream last year. So I have made whipped cream just with heavy cream and a little bit of sugar. And I also have Cool Whip. So that's part 1 of the thing. So I just thought a whipped cream base would be a little lighter on the inside of a cupcake. Buttercream is just heavy and sweet. Okay, so I also have made a coffee syrup. There, you see it floating around in there. Now, I think there's a couple different ways you can go about that. I happen to have espresso powder, which most stores have these days. It's used in baking a lot. So I used espresso powder. It says to use 3 ounces of water to a teaspoon of espresso powder, which is going to make a pretty strong coffee. And then I put in like a couple packs of Splenda. So I have a sweet coffee here. So not technically coffee syrup, but it will do. So when everything's kind of cool, I'm going to brush my inside of my cupcakes with the coffee syrup. So that is like the first part. If you're making opera cake with the layers, you've got your sponge cake layers, you brush it all with the coffee syrup. Then I'm going to take my 2 kinds of whipped cream, Cool Whip and my homemade whipped cream, and I'm going to make them coffee flavored with my coffee syrup. And I am going to put them in my filling holes with either a spoon or, you know, you probably have seen the technique where you take a big Ziploc bag, put your filling in there, and then just squirt it into there. So there's that. Then there's the topping, which I have made a ganache, which I'd never done before in my life. It's just chocolate chips and heavy cream. So there's one option for topping it all off. And also I'm going to try canned frosting because, I mean, if you're going to be sacrilegious, go all the way. And then we're going to see what Andrew thinks about how they taste. So stay tuned for the next videos. Okay, friends, I finished the job. These are my opera cupcakes, and on top is a little piece of gold edible leaf, because that is traditional with opera cake, the tiny little piece of gold leaf. And found it on Amazon. So why not? If you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. So we have 4 versions. They all look the same. But here's one tip. When you core the little hole in your cupcake, keep the cake, because you're gonna wanna put a little portion of it back in so that you have something to frost. So we have ganache with real whipped cream, coffee flavored whipped cream. And we have ganache with Cool Whip, coffee flavored Cool Whip. And then we have real whipped cream with chocolate frosting from a can. And the Cool Whip flavored, coffee flavored Cool Whip with the canned frosting, you know, to be real heathen. So we're going to have a taste test of all of these, and we'll let you know which is best. Okay. Hey friends, I'm back with the conclusion for the opera cupcakes. The unanimous decision between me and Andrew was that they were best with the real coffee flavored whipped cream, not the Cool Whip, and the frosting was better than the ganache. So that was our conclusion on that one. So really important, remember to really brush that cake with the coffee flavored syrup or your really heavily sweetened cup of strong coffee. The coffee flavor is what really makes it taste like opera cake. So you want a lot of it. Not so much that the cake is gonna totally fall apart, but I was too timid. You definitely want a lot of that liquid to go on your cake for the flavor. And if you make your own chocolate buttercream, then that will probably make it even better. I just used the, you know, the canned stuff, and we liked it better than the ganache. The ganache was a little hard when you're eating a cupcake. It just doesn't really work, and it just didn't have the sweetness. So that was our opera cupcake experiment. If you have a great bakery near you, real opera cake is heavily recommended. But even here, they don't make it all year round at our local pastry shop. So it's not an all the time thing unless you're, you know, walking by that great little place across the street from Lincoln Center. Okay, so they have great stuff. But if you're not in New York and you need opera cake fix, the real key was the coffee syrup on the cake and the chocolate frosting. The combination of the coffee and chocolate together, I think, is the thing. All right, I hope you will have fun experimenting with an opera cupcake of your own. Have a great one.